As you can tell, I tried to avoid the tie today, but sometimes stuff just happens. The Giants played the Commanders today at home. The final score 20-20, a tie here. They went the full distance of overtime in 10 minutes, and definitely a sour taste in your mouth if you're both teams. The Giants had several opportunities to win this game, and they went down big early. They were down 10-0 in the first quarter, but they came all the way back and scored a touchdown and a field goal. So the score was 10-10, and then 13-13 going into half. Saquon Barkley was looking great. He had about 60 yards at the half. Daniel Jones had 50 on the ground. Jones was 10 of 10 in the first half, about as perfect as you can get, not counting the spike, of course. Who's going to count that? We go into the second half, and the Giants, despite giving the Commanders the ball first, right, because they got the ball first in the first half, they're able to force a turnover, and the Giants go down, and they score a touchdown. This time it was Isaiah Hodgins getting in on the action. MetLife Stadium exploded, and just like that, 20-13 in favor of the G-Men, all the momentum in favor of the G-Men. And then, kind of looked a lot like the U.S. men's national team the last 20 or so minutes against Iran, right? You're just falling back on defense, not playing to put this game away, but just playing to not lose. And unfortunately, at a certain point, it comes back to bite you. With about 2 minutes left in the game, the Commanders had the ball down 7, and they were driving. The Giants forced a 4th and 4. Commanders were still in their own territory, and the Giants rushed their entire pass rush. Heineke goes outside the pocket, delivers a circus throw, somehow gets to Curtis Samuel for 20 yards. And had the Giants stopped the Commanders there, they would have won the football game. Simple as that. The Commanders ended up going all the way down, scoring. And just like that, it was 20-20. I was sitting behind the Washington PR team, and they were saying to themselves, hey, why aren't we going for 2 here? But they went for 1. Tie game. They played for overtime, and in overtime, the Giants got the ball first, but it was ugly. It was just punt after punt after punt, and it all came down to the very end. Giants had 4th and 3 from, I believe, the 45-yard line, Commanders' 45-yard line. The decision was, do you bring out Gano for a 62-yard field goal, or do you go for it? Brian Dable elected to take a delay of game penalty and punt it. Yeah, very confusing, right? And, he talked a little about this after the game, which, we'll get to in a second, but fans were booing. The Giants punted, but they actually forced a 3-and-out after that. Kayvon Thibodeau sacked Taylor Heineke, brought him all the way back to the 1-yard line. They forced a punt out of the Washington Commanders' own end zone with about 30 seconds left. The Giants get the ball. Jones delivers some on-target passes. They don't have any timeouts anymore, but they're able to get the ball back to where it was before. Give Gano an even better shot. This time it was 58 yards, and Gano was just short. And it's clear that the wind was not in their favor. Gano's made kicks of that caliber before, but it just wasn't his day with regard to that. And unfortunately for the Giants, that missed field goal, it was as time expired, and the final score 20-20. Yeah, just doesn't really seem very nice. You're the Giants. This was the first of 6 final games, and you come into this with 7 wins, so you think, all right, we need 3 wins, get to 10, we'll make the playoffs. 10's that sort of magic number to make the playoffs, at least in my opinion. And you don't pick up a win today. Yeah, it's not a loss, but now you have 5 games and you got to win 3 out of 5. Now, given that the other NFC teams outside of the NFC East aren't as competitive aside from the division winners, the Giants could theoretically make it with 9 or even 8 wins potentially. But that's not a guarantee. You think 10 is a guarantee. And they're going to host Philadelphia, the best team, arguably the best team, at least record-wise, in the NFL, here at MetLife Stadium next week. And then they go and visit Washington the following week. That game's not going to be any easier. You're in their territory. Then you go at the Vikings on Christmas Eve. Vikings are a legit team, man. The Jets played them really well, but even Mike White couldn't take them down in the end. Final score in that game, 27-22. And then after that, the Giants, they host the Colts on New Year's Day, and then it's at Philly. So aside from that Colts game, really tough teams coming up for the Giants, which means that this, I was going to say a loss, but this tie just, it's not the result you wanted at the end of the day. So, Brian Dable talked about that after the game. I was curious going to the press conference because usually it's, wow, what a great win. We did X, Y, and Z right, or we failed to execute. We have to improve on these 3 things. But the tie, you're leaning more towards the loss of you come here to win a game as the lights go out here at MetLife Stadium. You come here to win a game, and obviously if you don't, that's your goal. So you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But here's the thing, man. Brian Dable started the season off 7-2. And albeit an easy-ish schedule, but the Giants looked really good. Then they lost the last 2 games. A tough one here at home to the Lions, and then Cowboys on Thanksgiving. You have 10 days of rest. You come back here and take on the Commanders, who have been surging. They had won, I believe, 3 or 4 in a row. And this is a game you really needed to win, and for a while it felt like they were, but in the end it wasn't enough. Here's what Brian Daboll had to say about the tie after the game.
No, you always like to win the game. But there's some things we can do better, and that's what we'll try to do.
Back to the 4th and 3, like you made that statement the first game, went for 2, so impressive and rally around.
Yeah, well, I think it's later in the season, Dan, and I think you have those conversations leading up to games. A lot of wide variety of things that could happen, could not happen. Just to punt it and put them down there. I thought our defense had a chance to keep them down there, and maybe we'll get the ball back with, call it 35 seconds, somewhere around there, somewhere around midfield, and give ourselves another chance rather than if you don't get it, and then they kick a field goal they were going with the wind. So that's a decision that I made.
Well, as I said before, the final score here for MetLife Stadium, 20-20. Nobody won today. It's an unfortunate result, and it's gonna be weird how it affects the standings down the stretch as well. But the Giants still holding on to that 3rd spot in the NFC East, comfortably still in the playoff picture, but can't take your foot off the gas pedal now because you have the Philadelphia Eagles coming in here next week and the Washington Commanders on the road the week after that, and the Vikings the week after. Like it doesn't get any easier. It really doesn't. So from now until then, sit back, hope some other teams lose if you're a Giants fan. Seahawks are playing the Rams right now. The Seahawks are that only other team really in the NFC East that's sort of contending for one of those wild card spots. So it's really 8 teams fighting for 7 spots in the NFC. You can make the argument that the Falcons aren't out of it just yet, but it's really those 8 teams fighting for 7 spots. That's where we're at now. Week 13, I believe, in the NFL wraps up at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And for WFUV Sports, I'm Brij Gautam.